invite to the stage Mr. Mohitesh Misra is here. I think Saurav was here, but I could not find him. Anyway. So to start with, so today's discussion we thought about is unifying digital agenda. So people, you may surprise that why for CISO the digital agenda. When you talk about digital, 5 is digital, whatever the term of digital, everything need to be secured. Okay, that the role of security CISOs is coming to exist. So to start with, I have a question for the panel. In fact, the changing digital landscape where change is inevitable, it is important to have a flexible approach to unify digital agenda. What is your take on it? I will start with Karnika.
Well, unified digital agenda, it's a very interesting, I would say, mix of words, but lot of things will come under this bucket. Number one, whenever we think of unified digital agenda, it comprises of what we see as a trend today and what needs to be looked in for a solution, whether it is legal, since I come from the legal fraternity, I'm practicing lawyer in the Supreme Court. Look at cyber security in particular. So there you have to see the technology that will be deployed. What are the emerging trends? For example, today we talk about AI, metaverse, or other infusion of technologies. We talk about zero trust infrastructure and other kinds of technologies. So what is the current trend? And we also look at the possible threats and then solutions. So the agenda should be actually a mix of what we are seeing today and what are the challenges and what kind of solutions we need, and to have digital readiness or preparedness for the future as well. So it needs to be futuristic. We're talking about future tech today. Right from the time when IT Act was enacted in 2000 to where we stand today, there is a complete overhaul of not only the way we work, the way we interact, and therefore this unified digital agenda needs to be a holistic approach and has to be from a multi-stakeholder perspective. That's my first take on the question.
So if I can, the same question to Debabrata.
Yeah. Thanks, Deepak, for giving the chance. I'll just narrate some kind of analogy. The digital agenda is starting from the world perspective. It starts from 3 words. One is A, B, C. What the whole world is talking now, A means advanced technology. They are talking about IoT and all. B means they are talking about broadband. C means they are talking about cloud computing. You go anywhere in the whole world, you will find out these are the digital agendas they have been talking. And India is nowhere exception. India is also talking, A means Atmanirbhar Bharat, B means BharatNet, C means come and make in India. That is equivalent to making the chip and making self-reliance. What is important is when we build this kind of digital analogy, we have to make this digital inclusiveness and we have to run our digital services on top of these platforms. When we are going to make top of these platforms, we came from the telecom backgrounds. We are building the 4G network. We are building the 5G networks. So when you build this kind of networks, all your services will run on top of this. So therefore, whether it is any kind of cyber activities that will take place on top of these broadband activities, so that has to be taken care. So as I have been listening, what has been rightly articulated by one of the speakers, that security should not be thought as an afterthought. It must be built when actually you build your digital processes and bring that digital community and make digital savvy Indians. And what our Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Minister is saying, make our people as a digital savvy Nagarik, digital Nagarik. So that's why the moment we build all these concepts and we have to increase the digital literacy, the moment we go these kind of steps, definitely we'll be in much better step.
Saurabh, we want to understand, you are not there, the question was changing digital landscape where change is inevitable. It is important to have a flexible approach to unified digital agenda. What will be your take on it?
I'm sorry, can you come again?
the question what we have shared with you, that is the, in fact, the changing digital landscape where change is inevitable. It is important to have a flexible approach to unify digital agenda. What will be your take on it?
Uh, Nowadays, okay, the way digital is getting adopted, okay, we cannot stop. Everywhere, okay, it is digital. So what as an IT leader, okay, what is very important is to support the digital in the all the aspects, okay. Nowadays, okay, people don't come to IT for any digital tool, okay. It is available online. Okay, they just say that, okay, we want this, we like this, okay, can you support us in order to implement it? Okay, and now it is the IT leader's responsibility to ensure that, yes, how it gets implemented, how it gets integrated with the overall ecosystem. So, my point of view is that we have to be very agile in the current era and ensure that, yes, we build up infrastructure in a way which has APIs available to connect on a open source, on a cloud platform, and ensure that, yes, business runs as per their needs.
Wonderful. So we'll move to the next question. What are the risks associated with developing AI to be utilized in business? I will start with Rohit.
Let me first, really appreciate all the distinguished members present here. Thank you so much for making me part of this conversation, Mr. Deepak. And ladies and gentlemen, good evening to everyone. To start with, I'll say that AI is turning out to be a necessary evil. The way digitization is taking place in India, and if I compare with the level of awareness and education that is there prevalent in the Indian diaspora, we know that there's a big gap. Though AI is really empowering us in unifying the technical sector, there are great dependency on using AI tool to extract business decision out of highly unstructured and highly dispersed data. But the way we are using AI for the benefit of business decision making, at the same time, there is always a group of cyber criminals who are way ahead of us, and they are making use of the same tool to crack the shield that we are building using AI. Just an example, that ChatGPT, we very often hear of man in the middle. There's an incident which happened that whenever we go to a certain website, we get the pop-up to enter some CAPTCHA. And there was an instance that hacker created something, there was man in the middle, nobody knew. And somebody using the AI tool informed ChatGPT that I'm blind, I can't see what is written. So ChatGPT narrated the same thing to the hacker, and then the same input was given. And the system was hacked and the data was badly compromised. So this is the level of risk that is, growing at a high pace with the AI technology. And we need to be very, very serious about it, need to be very, very careful. The way it is growing, we need to grow in terms of our knowledge and awareness about using these tools. This is very sensitive. And you've seen that there is a great threat to nation also based on the emergence of AI.
Good. So I would request Colonel Dr. Inderjeet Singh to share your thought.
Thanks, Dr. Deepak, and thanks for having me here, and thanks to the host, panelists, and the people who are in the audience. So, very interesting topic. We're in an era of AI versus AI, where AI will be the defenders, and the AI tools will be made as a malware to, attack you. And this started happening. And there's so much that, again, I'll touch upon the chat GPT. Very off late, a chat GPT is being used to write a malware. It's been used to write a phishing mail, which is very difficult to identify using your normal, security parameters, right? Then there is something called a threat GPT, threat intelligence GPT, that's already in the market. People are talking of the warm GPT, which is going to be like a worm which circulates and goes around to the network. So lots of things are happening. While we talk of the digital agenda, and unified data. So we have to change the whole process of the cybersecurity itself. Right now, we look at the cybersecurity from a very, I'll say the minuscule perspective. We look at the endpoints or the other network devices, and we feel that all the threats are lying outside. It's time now that we have to think of the threats are inwards, and we have to look the complete network from outside in, right? That's how you have to change the whole process. You need to do the threat intelligence 24/7. You need to do the attack surface management of your network sitting from outside into your network 24/7. You should know which device of yours has got infected, right, in a real-time basis. That's the kind of time we are already in now. We are talking of a ransomware which is already happening 11 seconds, right? We are talking every 11 seconds, there's a ransomware. 400 ransomwares get successful in a day, and there are a million of attacks. And 2023, again, we are seeing the rise of ransomware attacks happening, cryptocurrency being used for paying the ransom. So these things are going to happen. The strategy-wise, if you have to be really very much, giving a thought to it, zero trust is one key which is important, and have a very layered approach to the cybersecurity where you are securing your endpoints to your network. And before I close, I just want to tell that certainly I came up with a policy last year that you got to report a cyber attack within 6 hours of it being, you coming to know that it has happened. And even if you come to know, what are you going to do about it if you don't have a data? If you don't have tools, if you think just the antivirus tool which is there in your network, that's going to protect you. So it's not the case. So you should have a solution which is a kind of a SOAR or a SOAR, which is there, which can give the logs to the CERT India in case of a cyber attack. So those are the kind of things which are very important. We have to be aware of it. SME market, the small and medium enterprises who really cannot afford those kind of tools on their on-premise, they need to move to a cloud-based thing. And one thing about cloud is again a problem. We're all moving to the cloud, but just remember where is the data. And the data security is a nightmare for any security guy. He may say, I'll do everything, but rest be assured, is the most difficult thing because we are pushing the data onto the edge, and we don't know how to secure the edge itself.
Yeah.
With that, I will close down and, hand over.
So we'll understand from Ravi. Kumar.
Sure. So I think the way I see the risk of using the AI, so I think definitely there are. So there are definitely apparent benefits that we have seen. So we have definitely surpassed that stage as a world that do we need AI or not. I think it is established we need AI. AI is, I would say, it's a technology of today and tomorrow. So I think if we are kind of from a security point of view, if we see, forget about the inherent risk, the AI is also being used, as rightly said, by the criminals. So I think if that's the latest technology that the adversaries are using, I think the defender side also has to use it. So I think the battle of tomorrow or the battle of today cannot be, fought with the weapons of yesterday. The inherent risk of using the AI for the businesses, I think we all know there are like security and privacy concerns because it involves a lot of data to be consumed, processed. So there are concerns of ethical use of that, biasness, transparency. These are the inherent risks that comes with the use of AI, and that needs to be kind of very thoughtfully delved into. So the security by design, privacy by design are the things that needs to be taken care of when we are utilizing the AI technologies into the businesses. Because I think as we all know, even any kind of algorithm would take the previous data, historical data, but the world keeps on changing continuously. So it forms sometimes the historical biases basis which the decisions of the futures cannot be taken. So I think at the end of the day, the risks can be eliminated if you use it to augment the human power rather than to replace the human power. The accountability, the supervision of the human should always be kind of be an overarching layer. Otherwise, yes, there are inherent risks of having the AI as a technology to be used for business decisions.
Wonderful. Boitis, you want to add something? Then I'll come to Karnika.
Sure. Thank you, Deepak ji. We are developing a connected healthcare analytics platform. So we understand that the kind of risk that we carry is phenomenal. So one of the issues that we take care as part of the development is the data privacy. And as part of the data privacy, we ensure that all the patients and the doctors and the hospitals, that data is seamlessly shared with approval from the patients themselves. So that kind of a privacy has to be part of the system. The second issue that I foresee is the data biases and the data poisoning. So whatever recommendations engines that we generate, so they start, if you start biasing those kind of data at the back end, right? So the recommendations would be entirely different. So those kind of risks are pertinent and it has to be taken care of.
Wonderful. Karnika, you want to add something?
Yes. Well, we look at AI from the prism of law. When we say law is changing in India. As you all know, we will soon have a Digital India Act, which will replace the Information Technology Act. We are also in the midst of having a new data protection law in India. And there are also going to be provisions in the new Digital India Act, on AI, where high-risk systems are going to be controlled or rather regulated through, having proper provisions, legal provisions of law, and there would be a mechanism to check and regulate the responsible and ethical use of AI. The high-risk systems will be prohibited mostly. The medium and the low-risk ones will be allowed, subject to certain, parameters of responsible use. But barring that, India doesn't, at this threshold that we are in, and we are in the G20 year, presidency. So India is setting an example for the world. We are leading in terms of technology, and we want to harness its maximum potential. Yes, keeping in mind the flip side, that it should be just a boon, not a bane. So with that perspective in mind, we are making the laws of the country. And when we look at projects from the private sector or even in the PPP space, there is data audit happening, so that all these legal, I would say legislations which will be applicable should be compliant. The project should be compliant with those changing norms. So the policies of the organizations is changing. New projects which are being tested or deployment is being planned keeping in mind these changes which will soon be implemented. So we are looking at that aspect. And as an advisor to the Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Information Technology, we're very proud to I feel that we've done a wonderful job in the sense that the laws which are now going to be coming are going to be futuristic. It's not going to be, the old obsolete laws which we had earlier. Those will go away, and new laws which are going to be regulating the tech space in the most liberalized manner. There is also a drive for decriminalization of laws. So we will only have restrictions wherever necessary, and the rest will be an open domain for innovation and research to happen. So that's a very good sign for the tech industry. Right?
Wonderful. Saurav, you want to add something?
So I think most of the aspects has been covered by the fellow panelists. One thing what I would like to add it over here is a human angle. Okay, with the increased adoption of AI, one of the risks what I feel is job. Okay, an individual job. Okay, which is now getting at a stake. Okay, and I can see a lot of people are under threat now. The flip side of it is that, there is also an opportunity that is coming. So people have to upskill themselves. So the message what I would like to give it over here is as an individual, it is very important and it is the right time to upskill ourselves. Okay, whichever field we are into digital, and especially post-pandemic, if you see, the way we were working earlier and the way we are working now is totally different. So if we don't upskill ourselves into technology, we will get abolished. So that was one thing what I
Wonderful.
thought.
So I have a question for Karnika. You want to add, Debabrata, please?
I just want to, in the sake of the audience, I was just want to give a very practical example. I was traveling from Delhi to Mumbai, Indigo flight, And it was Indigo flight, you all knows that you don't have a barrier there. Neither pilot can come and go inside the washroom. The pilot in the meantime go to the washroom, and that pickup time, the flight goes to toss. It went to for turbulence. And the person who was sitting behind me, he was very scared. Then I told him, don't worry, it is a Airbus 320 flight. It has inbuilt AI systems, learning with high-end machine learning algorithms. So you need not have to worry these things because it has been highly inbuilt AI systems, algorithms, machine learning algorithms are built. It will take care of this. But that person did not listen me. He was started chanting, of course, our God name. So in the meantime, the pilot came out and he went inside and the flight got stable. Then he looked at me and told, what you do? I told, I'm a graduate from IIT Bombay. So that is what he told me. This is the problem with you guys. You leave everything to machine. You leave everything to algorithms. You see, the pilot came, the flight becomes stable. So therefore, leaving everything to AI is a very dangerous. Leaving everything to algorithm is itself very dangerous. So therefore, human angle, human intervention is very much required at the time of. Taking a split time decision by the pilot could save, let's say, 400 lives, even if the algorithms run with a very sophisticated. Similarly, the case of a crime investigation, even if the CM tool is investing, even if the EDR tool is giving all the information based on the AI, if Triveni sir is not there, still people do not have confidence. So that's why human angle is very much important when we deal it. Because I come out with a system where I have deal with in a company where I have worked with in a Chinese company for 10 years. I do understand how the algorithms has been developed, how it has been the data sets has been trained, how the data has been biased, how the output will be get biased. You go to the chat GPT and write something about some extent to related to China, you will get a very, very biased output, how these algorithms are behaving. So that's why we need to understand the underlying things. Mama has rightly told out. We need a very comprehensive law to now counter all these things. Otherwise, the rule-based order, the countries which are not obeying now, they will create a law for artificial intelligence that will create a huge problem for others.
Wonderful. So before that, I was hearing Dr. Karnika said was telling that she is dealing with the policy for the defense and the MATI also. So I have a question for you. How the digital protection bill is expected to help in unifying digital agenda?
Digital Protection Act is in the offing. As we know, it is the second one. We had an earlier bill which was kind of withdrawn. Now we have the second bill. It has a change from the earlier current paradigm, what we had in India. What we will see is a regulatory body which will be there, the DPA will be there, the board will be there, who will be looking into the regulation of implementation of AI, and if there's any breach, there will be penalties, and as high as 500 crore is what is being envisaged. GDPR, on lines of GDPR in Europe, we have provisions. However, localization of data, the earlier bill had provisions on mirror imaging and localization of data, which is now done away with in this bill. However, there will be additional safeguards whenever there's a cross-border, like transmission of data. It has to be consent-based. So users will have to give a consent to what are the terms and conditions and how their data will be collected, processed, stored, shared with whom. And keeping in mind the user consent only, this data can then be utilized. Without that, it will not be. So you would have seen there's a click-wrap agreement which we form even now. When we say, when we read the terms and conditions and say we click on I agree button, means you have actually entered into a legally valid contract. So similar lines, we will have a consent-based approach, and data fiduciaries, the role of data fiduciaries, the role of processors, how they are processing data. In GDPR, we have very strict compliances. There, obviously, fines are also very hefty. And what we see, almost 4% of global turnover, that is the kind of fines which are there. although the stringent measures will be like quite stringent even in India, however, certain provisions like, as I said, on the critical data, what is sensitive data, what is critical data, how it will be processed or how it will be transmitted. There have been changes in some of these. However, critical data will still be obviously protected. Like the other data, but there will be lesser requirements in terms of mirror imaging and localization of data. That is the current status of the bill, and otherwise the data is going to be obviously protected, but that has been kept in mind that there's to be a fine balance between promoting technology and letting the data be transferred abroad when there is a need to perform that contract and the user's rights are also secure. The data is kept secure. So those safeguards like we have in GDPR will also be applicable depending on what finally the government would say as would be an additional safeguard or what will be adequate in terms of security.
Wonderful. Yeah. So I will take anyone want to add something what Karnika said, or we'll ask the question to ChatGPT.
Yeah, I'll just add. So what practically
But you have to tell me in a very short.
Yeah,
very short.
short. So the point is that in the data protection bill, you're going to have a control of your own data. Till this time, you don't have control. And second is they talk about data life cycle. So anybody who takes the data, he has to ensure that there's a data life cycle and their data has to be expunged after a certain time. So those are the 2 points, I think, which are very important as part of the bill which is going to come up.
Yeah. So anyone, Ravi, you want to add something, right? Or we'll move on to the next question, which is related to that. So we have a question, like find how the DP bill is expected to create a level playing field for organizations protecting individuals from harm and promoting innovation. I will start with Rohit.
That's another very interesting question to answer, to debate here basically. The background started in 2017 when Supreme Court come out with a verdict that the privacy is a fundamental right. And that's where it becomes very critical that we need to protect, because this is now directly enforceable in the Supreme Court of India. Anybody who finds breach of data can directly approach the Supreme Law. And that's when, I see that the digitization process which India has started, the overall objective is to empower every man, every human being, and also the positive use of the critical information which is residing. And hence this law holds accountable not only to the user of the data, these are the organization who are having access to the critical information of an individual. But at the same time, it is also empowering an individual to give the consent to those organizations, whether they can misuse it, use it in whatever form they want to use it. In the previous days, we have seen instances that, these data were being bought by bigger organizations to make business benefits. And they were largely leaked outside those organizations without having adequate protection. So at the one place, I see that it is empowering an individual. At the same time, it is holding the organizations who are processing this data to ensure a safeguard so that it is not exfiltrated. And when it comes to innovation, since there are a lot of challenges involved in the data protection, right from its origin to disposal, there are various stages. You are using it, you are changing it, you are archiving it, and then you are disposing it. And hence there are a lot of innovations which is required. We've seen in US and other part of the world, when such laws came up, the newer players, the startup largely died out. But thanks to Government of India, where they have came up with the policy of Make in India and startup, where they are ensuring that though the innovation is required and there are bigger players in the market, yet they get the fair chance using the MII clause and startup clause that they can very well innovate themselves and develop a good and strong software to protect the data. And that's what is my take.
Debabrata, you want to add something to it?
See, in the data economy, if you are not giving freedom to the innovation, so that does not mean that you have to confine everything in, and then you are not giving freedom to the startups to use this data and to come out various products. So when the startups use the data, they may be use complete set of data, they may be use partial set of data, they may extract some of data and out of the intelligence, they may build some kind of product. So it is very imperative to give some kind of liberty to the startups. So to proliferate the startup ecosystem, we must consider that part. Having said that, when it comes to the national security interest, of course, there actually we have to consider in a different way. So there we have to consider what extent the data has to be taken into custody, how they have to taken care. So that aspect need to be taken care. But as we operate in the telecom space, we take care of billions customer data records into accounts. So we do understand that it is a lot of implications. So we have a lot of safeguard placed, how to protect those kind of CDR records, to take care of those kind of values of customer data. So on the other hand, we also use the data to proliferate the various kinds of like 5G. It's a kind of technology which is coming. It's all data-driven, AI-driven technologies which is providing the digitization, and the new technology are coming. So there should be a fine balance need to be made.
Wonderful. Yeah. So anyone want to add few lines to it?
Yeah, maybe I
Yeah,
can.
please.
So like organizations have to do a lot of changes for considering the privacy policies, because the customer needs to be informed about all these acceptances
Implications,
and
yeah.
all the approvals related to that. And like in healthcare, I would say that if a particular doctor needs a particular record or X-ray or some sort of reports, then the acceptance has to be given by the patient to provide that information. And that too, one-time view, one-day view, those kind of changes have to be made in the, so a lot of changes are expected to be in the application developments.
Wonderful. Ravi, you want to add?
Very quickly, so I think as we all understand, privacy is more of like, a cultural change. So I would say in the parlance of India, government seems to be more worried about privacy than the data subjects themselves, right? If we talk about like 70% of the population or so is still like rural, where the privacy is absolutely not a, even a dimension. While we have got Digital India vision that is driven by the Prime Minister, by the government, and I think very much required is the data protection bill, which takes care of the privacy aspects of the, consumers, because I think if we want to be a digital economy, digitally empowered economy, and a knowledge economy, as per the vision, I think, lot of digitization things will come, and, entire ecosystem is probably going to be digital, right? From the payment to healthcare to banking to a lot of things. So I think it is the need of the hour to have a data privacy bill, because at the end of the day, consumer data has to be protected. At the same time, as rightly said by Karnika, I think there is like a need for enhancing or overhauling the IT Act, which is being done by the Digital India bill that is coming up. So I think as we are traversing through a digital, I think, economy path, I think both the bills from an overall IT Act perspective and as well as a data privacy from the consumer protection point of view, I think these are definitely the need of the hour.
Saurav, you want to add few
I
lines?
would like to say one
Yeah,
more,
please.
important aspect, that is telecom bill. So we also have a new bill for telecom, like by TRI. Today, in the morning, if you would have seen the papers, TRI has also said that we need AI regulation, because some sort of a regulation is needed for guiding the industry to harness this in a proper way. So we would say that there is a lot of convergence happening, in the sense that all these laws will have to be aligned with each other. So that is another aspect which we are covering. And lately the Consumer Protection Act has also been changed. So the provisions which we see now therein are also some of them implemented already in the IT Act and the rules. So it is strengthening consumer position. It is all these laws aim to empower both individuals as well as organizations in the right spirit of the law. So that is the intention, and therefore these different industries and different ministries also working towards creating new set of laws. They have to be on the same page. Alignment is the need of the hour.
Wonderful. Saurav, you want to add some last note?
Yeah. So one thing what I would like to add further is if we see from a personal data perspective, okay, we didn't had that regulation earlier. Okay. Since now we will have a regulation very soon. Okay. What I see from my perspective is how it is going to change our lives is that the data that will be processed. So first of all, that okay, there will be as per the regulation. Okay, there will be a consent. People will give their individuals will give their consent. Okay, when they will give their consent, what it is going to change is the data authenticity. Okay, the data which will be available will be authentic, validated by the individual itself. Okay, and it will become a kind of a universal truth. So for the processors of those data, whether it is my organization who is processing my data or say any government organization or any advertising agency or any other agency who is processing those data, okay, they will process on one single source of truth, which could be possible that will not be the case right now.
Yeah,
That was
you are
one
right.
thing.
Yeah, right. So it is very good. That's very informative, I would say, from the panelists. So I would like to thank all the panelists for the sharing inputs. Thank you very much.